two of my favorite guys in the world, and also two of my favorite podcast guests. I don't know how many. You guys have been on a number of times.
Yeah.
I can't even keep track.
We have been on a few times.
For those, okay, the show notes are lukestorey.com/quantum3. So that would be, I guess this would be your third. For those that want to hear more from these two, Ian and Philip, respectively, we'll put the show notes today at lukestorey.com/quantum3. I feel like every time we sit down, the world has like hyperspace changed so much that there's a lot to talk about, but also in the realm of Leela quantum and quantum upgrade. I don't know. I see stuff on your social and I'm like, oh, these guys did another research, a research project, or there's some new development, some addition to the service. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. We got to talk about it again. Because I just like to keep abreast of things like this in the world. And so, it's almost like I don't know where to start because we've covered a lot of the foundational stuff to begin with. But there's going to be a few thousand people that have not yet heard those first two episodes. So maybe let's just start with the fundamental premise of quantum energy, which I think most people kind of have a general understanding of what it is. How have you guys developed technologies by which people can actually harness quantum energy and apply it to different areas of their life?
So we figured out a method on how to vibrate the ether so that we can make highly concentrated quantum energy available in this reality in a way that hasn't really been done before or in very ancient times. What that means is that we can infuse specific products with highly concentrated quantum energy field, and then there's a certain vibration that you can calibrate on the Hawkins scale, and you can combine it with all kinds of different frequencies, and that's the Leela quantum tech side. Now, today, I think we're talking about quantum upgrade. So I'm quickly moving out of that. Those are physical products, and you can use them for all kinds of things for your body.
We have them all over the house.
Yeah, you can structure water with
probably like too many. At one point, I had like the giant one up here that you brought, which is now in the garage. I'll tell you why. And then I had the one on the kitchen counter. I put my water and supplements in, and then I have the infinity block in my office. And Allison, who's, I think, just much more tapped in and sensitive, she's like, dude, you got too much of this energy shit in the house. Like, you need to calm it down. So at various times, I'll, move things around or remove things to see, what the right balance is. So based on that, I know what you're doing is real because, she feels it almost to the point of like, okay, this is enough,
It's always interesting when there are people who, most of your audience, I'm sure at this point, is super dialed in and kind of knows it, and probably for the most part they've experienced it. But for people who haven't, it sounds so absolutely out there woo, which is why we've done so much research. I mean, we've got studies, over 70 studies, I think, at this point. And
wow, God, I remember when there was like one or two studies, and I was like, cool, that's good. I'm convinced.
It's been a hot minute. Yeah. So, but yeah, and some of like the latest studies are off the charts compelling. So, I mean, we'll go through some of those, but it really is, when you see something intangible expressed in a tangible format, it's always very cool. Like, and everybody in the lab always gets kind of incredulous at first, and then after you've done it enough times, people are like, oh, we don't understand it, but we're going to do it. Which is actually, you don't really have to grasp the subtle nature of everything to realize that there's import. Right? It profoundly has an impact in a physical sense.
Yeah. I think my tendency is just to do everything overkill, to the point of like, you really only need one of the Leela things probably just in the middle of the house and you're fine. But I'm like, I don't know, you guys sent me another one. I'm going to put them everywhere, So anyway.
You can have more. And there's a lot of people that have more. So it's all good.
Oh, I also have the infinity block in my car.
Okay.
And I have the quantum upgrade service on my car. And I also have the Blue Shield scalar thing in there. So like, I just like to go full on, but, I understand some people are more sensitive. Okay, so the Leela thing, we've done episodes about that. I've talked about it a lot on social. But today I want to really talk about, the field theory, the quantum field theory, and the quantum upgrade. Because even though, I understand it in a fundamental sense, there's always a bit of a bridge to cross to get and I'm sure many of the listeners' intellect to understand that there's so much more going on outside of the physical realm and what we, can touch, feel, right? Like everything, including this thing right here, first exist in the realm of non-form, and now it's in the realm of form. So I only think this is real because it's here right now, but the imprint of it, the idea of it, existed before this thing was sitting here, right? So anyway.
Exactly, yeah, and everything comes out of consciousness. And so, the question probably leads to, okay, so how does this quantum upgrade even work, or how can we explain it to people, right? So we've built a system that is one of the most powerful sources of quantum energy on Earth. And when we place a unique identifier of someone or something into the system, then that something or someone is in the field. So it's not that the system sends out energy like a 5G tower does, that sends out energy to your phone. No, it's literally via quantum entanglement, you are in the field. And then the trick was that you couldn't just do that and offer it that way. You would have to have the user have 100% control over it. And that's something that we really wanted to also take a notch further, where it's not that, okay, so now I want to make a change for tomorrow. No, it should be pretty instant. So if you want to say, okay, I want to have more energy, you can set it, or you can book in a specific frequency. I think we have 30 different frequencies by now that you can book in. And the system updates every 5 minutes, meaning that if you make a change now, within the next 5 minutes, you have that change already. And you can pause it also at any time. That's pretty much how it works. And it's very, very important and critical that everyone and everything that's in the system isn't linked to anything else in the system. So that was for us one of the biggest things to work on in the development phase, that, you don't commingle any of those, objects or like cars and phones with something else, right? And yeah, when we had that was the biggest trick, and then connected to that digital front end. And now it literally works like clockwork. It's, and that's where the studies come in, because now you can say, okay, this is how it works. It's quantum entanglement. By the way, if you don't believe that quantum entanglement exists, in 2022, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded for work on quantum entanglement. So it's not that it's like a very new concept, to be honest. I think it's just new that it is applied, right? Because you can experience it every day. And the latest research, we'll get into that, it's quite phenomenal. And it's also hope-giving in a way, because we live in a world where we're exposed to so many stressors. EMFs, blue lights, the melanin levels are messed with, our brains are messed with, and we'll get into the brain stuff actually, that I have some news for everyone here. The blood is messed with, everything is messed with. So if we can provide something that supports our biofield and really strengthens that, that's pretty cool. And it's because it's not like a physical object that I need to carry and put somewhere. It's even good for athletes, for example, because you don't need to carry anything if you have a boxing world championship fight, which there are actually indeed box world champions that are using the quantum upgrade.
That's what I was thinking.
I would never have imagined that.
No, I was thinking like the MMA guy is like, turns on the boost, goes into the octagon and just slays. I think with the realm of quantum energy, it's like, I don't know, we're just humans by our very nature. We just like empirical evidence. And if we can't, if we can't sense it with the body in a tangible way, we tend to discount it as not real. But we have no problem picking up our cell phone and like FaceTiming someone. It's like, I FaceTime with my brother last night. Yeah. He's not here. He's not in the phone. He's in Idaho, right? But there's some invisible waves, and I have no problem believing in that, right? That there's some like carrier wave that's going to the cell tower down the road, and it's hitting my phone. Oh yeah, that's fine. But there is something, I can see him there and I can interact with him. So there's like some empirical evidence that non-visible, non-physical realm is happening and that it's real.
But that's what it takes, though, right? Is you have to see it, experience it, and then once it becomes part of your daily existence, it's just commonplace and everybody takes it for granted. It's funny that you're using that example because Nikola Tesla got called out in like the early 1900s for saying, in the future, you'll have a device where you'll be able to see people and talk to them in real time around the world. And it was at the IEEE convention. And he got panned for it. Everybody said he was crazy. He was a loon. And, literally he's describing FaceTime. And,
right.
100 years later and change, and we're all like, everybody knows it. And I think a lot of what we've been working on it's the quantum biology, where there's an interface between quantum fields and flux and how it actually expresses biologically. And that's where it gets a little tricky because, luckily we can do definitive markers. So we can look at ATP, we can do wound healing, all of which we've done. And recently, looking at brain waves, doing 256 channel QEEGs, kind of the best systems you can get on the planet currently.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to jump in on that one? And then,
yes.
And then I'll give some
I'm big on this
on
because I've been re-immersing myself into neurofeedback lately. I went and did this thing called the Whole On Experience out in California.
Yeah, Drew.
With Dr. You introduced me to Dr. Drew.
I did, in fact.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So we finally connected and I did the thing and now I've got the Sensei device. I freaking use that thing every day.
I've got it. Love the thing.
I did a 45-minute deep calm this morning. I mean, I'm in like plant medicine zone. It's amazing. Anyway, so I'm really big on the brain waves.
Skills.
Yeah, I'm really big on the brain waves
mad skills
right now in life. So this is exciting to me.
Yeah. So by the way, we have first evidence already that it works extremely well with the neurofeedback in conjunction and amplifies the experience and potential, but more to that at another time. So in Europe, there was this study done indeed with the most advanced EEG device on the market in Europe, 256 channels, as he said. And they are a lab that tests technologies and tests electromagnetic fields and all of that. And all the new iPhones get tested and all of that. I think they had 60 companies so far giving them their products to test, and only 2 had efficacy, like real efficacy on the brain. And that's important. Not just heart rate variability, not just the blood, which I haven't seen anyone else actually besides us doing the research on the blood with double-blind and randomized studies that show these significant effects. Usually they have something else that's not so tangible. The brain for me was an eye-opener, to be honest, because I had known a lot about it. I used to work at T-Mobile, as you know. Then we had done all our own research. I have read.
You used to work for the dark side. You switched teams.
It was still the bright side when I was there.
No, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and one of what's it called? The Danny Jones Show. He does a lot of cool shit about UFOs and conspiracies and stuff like that. And seems like a pretty awake guy. And then he ran a T-Mobile ad in the middle of the show, and I was like, I'm done.
It's like the Imperial March plays. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what we saw in this study was remarkable, and it opened my eyes what is actually happening with the brains. And first of all, the way it was constructed is they had a 10-minute EEG in a completely EMF-free room, completely blocked off. That's a baseline. And you can tell the brainwaves flow naturally. It's just literally natural brainwaves, how it's supposed to be. Then they put this person, the test person, into a chair, and they get the iPhone 15 next to their ear with a little stick like this, basically, about half an inch away.
Oof.
And then they simulate a 5G call for 30 minutes and measure the EEG. And most of them developed headaches right away. And also, the lady who's one of the experts in Europe in regards to EEG measurements, she said, what's happening now is the 5G bandwidth puts the brainwaves into an artificial box. So the brainwaves can't flow naturally and freely anymore. You're literally operating in a box suddenly. The interpretation of that I leave up to everyone else. On top of that, all the stressors in the brain got significantly amplified, so that you wonder even how can someone be even calm if you're exposed to that type of stuff. Now, then the test persons didn't know what was actually being tested other than the phone, obviously, and when something would be turned on. After the first 30 minutes with this iPhone there, then there was another test done. Same thing, but with a quantum upgrade on. And these investigators, they thought, but that's not going to work. I mean, we've tested all these products. 98% of those don't work. And how
little like stickers
you
put on
stickers and all kinds of stuff that people have.
Remind me, I want to get into that in terms of like quantum everything these days. It's like so annoying. Hey, check it out. Do you want to hit that flow state on demand without smoking your adrenals? Well, listen up. As an entrepreneur and now author, I love getting into new projects. But I've noticed how motivation starts to fade when I've been grinding on something for a while. And lately, I've been deep in the process of writing my first book, and let me tell you, that initial spark of creative thinking does not always last, especially in the afternoon. So that's why I started looking out for something that could reignite my drive without giving me anxiety like stimulating nootropics tend to do. Well, a couple months ago, thank God, I got turned on to something called Correct Energy. And as someone who has a very hard time getting excited about a new supplement, I was legit floored on day one, no joke. Because Correct Energy was designed to hit the dopamine system directly, and that's the one responsible for your clarity, mood, and drive. Now, most energy products jack you up with cheap caffeine and other stimulants, but Correct uses something called paraxanthine, a rare caffeine metabolite that gives you all the upsides of coffee without the tweaking out or sleep disruption. Then they stack it with Zynamite and an extra, 2 clinically studied plant extracts that amplify those effects by working synergistically on the same neurotransmitter pathways. This stuff is next level. Actually, it's a couple levels above next level. So if you want to light up your brain and your energy, here's what you do. Go to correctlife.com/Luke and use the code Luke to get 15% off. And heads up, that's correct with a K. Because if you guys want to aim high, you need a fuel that rises to the occasion. Again, that's correctlife.com/Luke. And don't forget to use that code Luke and save yourself some cash. It is legit.
They thought, they're coming with this thing over distance, that can't work. And then within the first few seconds with the first test person, when it came on, the quantum upgrade came on, that lady was sitting there, oh my God, this freaking works. This really works. And we could see, she knew. At that point, we could have stopped the study and she would have been convinced just because of the first 10, 15 seconds, because the brainwaves did what they would never do under 5G exposure if you didn't have an intervention running. And it was significant because it neutralized the stressors in the brain so significantly. I think Ian can...
it was... And the biggest thing is if you look at the image, right? So you've got the brain in its natural state. Then you have the brain exposed to the iPhone 15 and everything is red and orange and yellow, not so hot. And then when the quantum upgrade kicks in, everything goes back to calm. It's not as clear as the natural, pristine, no EMF brain, but it's so remarkably shifted that the visual, and we'll give you the image so you can post it. But all of the things, so like gamma waves in the limbic system dropped 77.6%. Sure. And that's a correlation to how much relaxation you can get, right? So your stressors drop 77.6. The beta waves in the temporal lobes, those dropped 82.9%. So just massive precipitous drop. And then the other one in the limbic system is the alpha waves kicked up 1,300%.
What?
13x.
That's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly
that's what I'm getting
want.
in the sensei meditations where I'm just like, oh, this is heaven. It's just
and
like
that's
Alpha
it. So
City.
just instantly, boom, 13x.
Dude,
and
that's
it was
crazy.
done. Yeah, it is crazy indeed. And it was done with the quantum upgrade over distance, not even the highest settings. I would say low to medium, but with the so-called brain support frequency that we specifically developed for these high stress situations. So if you're, for example, in an electric car, if you are in an airplane, if you have your phone here, if you use your AirPods, for example, things like that, because that is pure stress to the brain. It literally is pure stress. And that really opened my eyes because I did not know how bad that really is to the brain. And it's quite
So
phenomenal.
in this particular experiment, you've got a regular iPhone 15. They're activating a 5G call with the phone next to them. You're seeing their brain waves get totally trashed under normal circumstances. Then you assign the quantum upgrade service to that phone number.
No, to that person.
To the person.
Oh, to the person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
that's one of
okay.
the unique things about the quantum upgrade. You can have it for the individual. So the biofield literally is in the field. And then so the brain support frequency is on, and instantly you see this shift. And no matter what the 5G is doing there and all of that, it just can't get through it anymore.
So that person doesn't need to have their phone with them in order to be in the field because it's on their body.
Yeah.
I need to activate this when I use the Sensei because it's on Bluetooth. It always freaks me out.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's a really low level. Don't worry about it. I'm like, still though,
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and you and I have talked about it before because just the force coming off of most of those things, even low yield Wi-Fi transmitters, it's enough to disrupt voltage gated calcium ion channel flow. And when you do that, you completely throw off the influx and efflux of everything inside your neurons. And when that happens, you're fundamentally dysregulated. And you can see it. I mean, you can see it in the brain waves. But if you're doing an fMRI, you could potentially see the neurons not firing properly. Just because of that stuff, not that you'd be able to do that in an fMRI because you'd fry the phone. But if you did, you'd actually see that everything gets thrown off because the field coming off an iPhone is pretty intense. I mean, I'm not, saying that we should all renounce our driver's license and go live in the mountains in Colorado and grow a beard and, not have phones because I'm kind of a fan of my phone. But it's still, I mean, you have to accept that there's a lot of detriment with the progression of almost any technology. There's going to be some detriment, but that's what I think. Like when you look at the pictures of this, truly pictures worth 1,000 words here. You look at it and you're like, healthy brain. Oh my God, that's awful. Back to pretty good.
Wow. You guys got to send me that image.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the
I'll
show
show you.
notes.
I keep it on my phone because
Cool.
it's such a holy schnoikels.
Well, in the realm of this, this kind of craze of quantum energy and different devices and things like that. I mean, I think thank God you guys are doing that because that's what's really needed. We need some empirical evidence because, as I was alluding to earlier, I remember to come back. I mean, I get messages from people all the time, some little quantum sticker, this and that, the shungite pendants, like whatever. People ask me, does this work? I go, it might, but like, there's no, if there hasn't been some research, some studies, something to document that it at least is having a positive influence on biology, because you can't really, that person in that experiment, for example, if you had a RF meter next to their phone, next to their head, the quantum upgrade isn't blocking that field, right? It's creating, a sort of fortification of the biology in the brainwaves, right?
Right.
So that's the bummer about this field, no pun intended, is that anyone can just come up with any piece of shit product and call it quantum, which is super annoying because then that discredits people like you that are actually, I mean, I'm sure you guys are putting like a lot of money into these studies. These studies are hella expensive from what I understand. So I just have this kind of disdain for people that are polluting the marketing waters with dubious shit that either, is totally fake or just not really worth spending any money on, because there is actual science and empirical evidence that people like you are actually bringing forth to say like, hey, don't just trust us that this thing works. Like, here's evidence. Cool. I think everyone should be required to do that,
Exactly. And it really doesn't stop there. I know that there's a few studies that you may be really interested in, and that is in regards to the blood. And we talked about blood studies before. There's so much research we've done, randomized and double blind, but specifically now in regards to parasitic load and spike proteins.
Oh, really?
Randomized double blind studies. Spike proteins, right? We're just taking that out of context now so we can talk about it. It was shown that in the control group that was not receiving the quantum upgrade, everyone showed traces of the spike protein in every blood sample. And the blood sample was taken at various parts of the body. Whether they were vaccinated or not didn't matter. It literally didn't matter. All of them had traces of the spike protein. And in the treated group, in the so-called experimental group that received the quantum upgrade, again, randomized and double blind, none of these people had any traces of the spike protein
What?
in their blood throughout the entire duration of the study.
Dude, what?
Yes, that is
That's
the one study,
nuts.
and then the other one. So I think you may remember
This
that.
is crazy. I want to come to these experiments. Like, I got to see this shit. This is crazy.
We'll actually at some point invite you that you can maybe get brainwave tested and see before and after.
I would love that.
Yep, because it's truly eye opening to see it with your own eyes.
Do you think your mineral supplements are doing the job? Well, look, it's great that you know how mineral deficient we all are, and you're doing something about it. But here's the deal, all right? Most of those pills out there are salt-based, and your body barely absorbs them. So basically, you pop a capsule, feel good about your life choices for a few minutes, and then pee it right out. And that's not health. That's just expensive urine. But I get it. I used to be that guy, stacking all the mineral supplements, looking for better sleep or energy, but never really feeling a difference. But eventually, I found Beam Minerals, and that's when everything changed. Beam is made from something called humate, one of the most mineral-dense substances on Earth. Beam extracts that ancient material, then purifies it into a concentrated liquid that is loaded with every essential mineral your body needs. And you'd think something that comes from the Earth might taste nasty, but it actually tastes like water, and it works like rocket fuel. Ever since I've been on my daily Beam regimen, my energy's been steadier, my digestion has improved, and my brain, well, there's way less fog and way more focus, because that's what minerals do. So to get yourself fully mineralized, head over to beamminerals.com and use the code Luke to get 20% off your order. Because here's what's up. If you want your minerals to work, the solution is really simple. You need to absorb them, and that's why I take Beam. One more time for the kids in the back, that's beamminerals.com, and again, that code is Luke. So I'm going to read between the lines a little bit here. I don't know how censored we are these days. I mean, I know I'm still censored on social media. Podcast, I seem to be able to kind of say what I want, so I won't be that, what do you call it, cryptic. So in this test, whether people had undergone the mRNA experiment or not, we're assuming just from being around people that did, like everyone's essentially, infected, for lack of a better term. They're getting the consequences of that, fake medicine being rolled out. So everyone's basically loaded with these spike proteins.
The one thing I can say is how much of the spike proteins were tested there. But that's one thing I can't tell. That was also not part of the study, really. It was just to see. Actually, the study was about something else, and then they were finding that, and then they were digging into it, and they just saw the traces. But whether the vaccinated had more traces, or I don't know. I would have to ask the investigators there, and but it's quite remarkable.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's like it's the chicken or the egg. Like, who cares? I just want something that cleans up my blood. It's like, it doesn't matter so much why it's that way. I don't think I'm just curious to know that, but ultimately, I mean, as you said, we're being attacked from every freaking angle just because of what we've done to the environment and our food and water and air. I mean, it's like,
yeah, and this is a whole lot easier than going to go through apheresis or plasmapheresis or therapeutic plasma exchange. I mean, all those things are super viable for taking detrimental things out of your system, but it's a whole lot easier to do this.
Do we know how long that clean blood lasts? I mean,
I don't.
I don't think even you could say, because we know that there's like this staircase effect, that the longer you use it, the more your body is able to recreate all that energetic state, even the EMF protection, all of that. Like you'll be literally, it trains your consciousness, your biofield to be able to replicate that. But as you know, then we're so exposed, and then what are we exposed to, right? So if I then go and sleep under a 5G tower and eat crap and drink bad water or Pepsi or Coke, for that matter, then probably it's not going to last that long. But if I stay very healthy and I stay, I don't know, in the jungle and I go ground myself in the ocean every day, probably it stays longer. That's why I think it's very individual. And you couldn't even say that, but it does last certainly some time. And also the effects on the brain, that's what we at least have found. So in regards to parasitic load, that's the other one. And I think I mentioned in one of the shows before that the Base Institute found a reduction in parasitic load in the blood of test persons that were, exposed to the quantum upgrade. And then in one case, they actually found an 80% reduction in parasitic load. And then I was like, wow, I mean, that is crazy. And that was actually within 15 minutes, right? I think that's probably the best case scenario. I don't think it could get any better than that. But then we said, okay, we would like to go deeper, And then they ran a study, randomized and double-blind, with a control group and experimental group, and looked specifically at the parasitic load and also the environment in the body that makes parasites thrive. And what they found is that the quantum upgrade, this high consciousness field, and then they actually used also, I think for half of the day, they used the so-called Heal 360 frequency. That makes the environment so bad for parasites that they have to go away. It's literally, they don't like it anymore. And it's very well written and described actually in this study. It's a very, very good study to read. And then it shows a significant reduction in parasitic load in all of the test persons that were exposed to the quantum upgrade. And you didn't see any change. And as a matter of fact, it got worse for the ones that were in the control group. It didn't even stay the same. It got worse over time. It was a 6-month study. So, wow. Yeah, it's quite remarkable. So there's something there. And by the way, I'm not suggesting, do this as the only thing to take care of parasites. I think, no, just do whatever you always do that that works. Do that in addition, because it helps clean your biofield and your body. So I think that's pretty powerful if we're talking about spike proteins and parasitic load. Plus, of course, we know that the red blood cells start to declot and white blood cell activity is activated again. That's powerful stuff.
I mean, the parasite thing makes sense from the terrain theory perspective, right? I mean, you're talking about biochemistry, and if you have a certain, your pH, all kinds of different things, right, are going to make you as a host more attractive and, life-supporting to parasites. So it's interesting, though, having an input from the non-physical realm that's having, an effect on the terrain in that way. It's like an energetic terrain kind of thing, which, I mean, is not totally new. I mean, Rife machines and things like that, we know have been used to neutralize different pathogens and things like that. So it's not totally out of the realm. But this is interesting because someone's not sitting there holding on to Rife tubes.
Yeah, you've got a plasma tube next to yourself.
Yeah, that person's just chilling, has no idea what's going on because it's a double-blind study.
Well, it's gradations, right? So we're doing gradations of granularity. So you went from, in the past, everything was kind of Newtonian mechanics applied to the body, and it was all physical. And then it became chemical, and then it became, electrochemistry. And it kind of keeps moving down. And now we're talking about quantum biology, and we're going, oh, there's a field effect that you can express. And I would take it even a little bit farther and say that when you're addressing those things, any sort of a pathology that's expressing, the reason you're able to overcome it is because you don't have to fight against the thing. You can do it one of two ways, right? It's like being cold in a room. You can either turn the temperature up and change the entire environment, or you can simply put a jacket on, right? You can buttress yourself against the stress. And so in this case, you amplify your own consciousness and your own energetics, and it makes you less assailable, from the standpoint of any sort of pathology that's trying to express in your form, which again, it's an expression of consciousness. And the way I always look at it is consciousness expresses to become energetics, energetics express to become, subatomics, and then molecular, and then biochemical, and then meat suits. And it's kind of like the, crunchy on the outside or chewy on the, crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside.
Well said.
We're kind of going farther and farther out. And it's the expression of consciousness as it gets farther away from its center point. But that's the beauty of what we're doing is when you express something at the most fundamental level, that cascade effect just moves through and propagates all the way through to physical form, which is, the videos of us on stage doing things with histamine reactions in real time. That only works because things are waveforms before they're tangible matter. And the depressing thought of the day, every time, I push on Philip, it's his leg moves because my electron clouds are repelling against his electron clouds. It's not that we're actually really technically touching. It's that there's this probabilistic cloud around each of us that are kind of clashing for a moment. Sometimes they mesh really well. Sometimes they clash. When they mesh really well, you have substances and things that don't harm you. When they clash, then you have a destructive interference pattern, and you might get some pathology like parasitic load or your blood clotting or viruses or spike proteins or, any of that stuff. But if you're strong enough in and of yourself, and that's really, I think, the fundamental thing that's the beauty of this is you're part of the field anyway. And this just kind of gives you a little leg up in the field.
How is it related to the ether, which is not, it's not something I've really explored on the show and don't totally understand, but my thought on it would be that we exist in kind of the substrate of matter, being that everything, probably inclusive of, but everything that we would see as not something is the ether. Right?
I would be inclined to say yes.
It's like we're all underwater, but we don't see or feel the water. That is the ether. How would you guys describe it?
I think that's a great description. And the good part is that we're even talking about the ether, because the ether was sort of like banned from the mainstream scientific model, I don't know, a few decades ago.
Didn't they remove it from the periodic table or something?
Probably. And then nothing makes sense anymore after that. And I don't want to say that everyone in the quantum physicist space is thinking that way. I actually believe a lot of them really see it the same way that we see it. But there is certainly a narrative out there that grit creates grit. So matter creates matter. And that is a fundamental misunderstanding of reality, because everything originates from consciousness, never the other way around. There's always consciousness first, and then matter can come from that or result from that. And once you understand that, and that there is this ether, you can access that. It's possible. And everyone has the ability to do that. And that's also what we've been saying, right? We are all consciousness running around. We're not meat bags, just dead meat bags. So we have access to all of that. It's just most
Have
of
you
us.
been in an airport lately? I
know, right?
Walmart?
Yeah, you wonder, right?
I think there's some NPCs that are possibly just meat bags now.
Yeah, over 99% of
I let
the people.
my judgmental part come through.
I have forgotten that. And it's time that we reactivate that muscle again. So we can do all of that, right? We could, if we're really focused, really trained, and have full access to it again, we could promote such changes that we're describing that the quantum upgrade can do. You could do with your own consciousness. But you would have to be really focused and really tuned in and really trained in order to do that. But it is possible, because you can do those things. And that is what we're trying to tell people. Keep doing your meditation, right? Do your yoga. Just remember that you are energy and frequency. That's just the great start. And then, of course, use tools like ours to help you, that you remember that, and that you kind of can do that in the future again, because we're moving there anyway. You want to start training that muscle, because it'll become more and more important. I can tell you one thing. Most people are not seeing right now what is going to happen with AI in the world. In the next 5 to 10 years, we will see shifts here that most people have no clue about. There will be a mass die-off of jobs. People will be jobless. And then the big question is, what is humanity even good for, right? And what can I as a human still do? I can tell you what we can do. We have the connection to consciousness. We are consciousness beings. And that is our advantage. AI does not have that. We'll never have that. AI can think quickly, can be programmed and all of that, and spit out great summaries and content and all that good stuff. We have the real connection. So you want to train that connection now, because that's where you also get your input out. Like, what am I going to do in the world? You don't think your way out of that. You connect with the ether, with your higher self, and then you work from that. And then you're good. That's pretty much how it works. That's the answer.
I love that. I mean, what you were talking about in the beginning of that reminded me of, mystics of the ages that have on record dematerialized, or people in the Himalayas that learn to levitate and things like that. I mean, I've met people that I believe aren't delusional or dishonest that have witnessed things like that or done things like that in the realm of, I guess, what we call supernatural. But I mean, they're training for 50 years to be able to do it. You know what I mean? To your point, is like, yeah, I mean, this is accessible to anyone, but like, who honestly has the dedication, to try?
Only a zealot.
Like, how long am I going to sit here to, try and access quantum energy where I can levitate that thing like, Luke Skywalker? So yeah, we know that it's real, but I like the idea that it's like, yeah, cool, let's continue to work on it ourselves. But who doesn't like a cheat code? Right.
Actually, yeah. So with my company, MD Biophysics, so you've done, the stem cell procedure that we do with the lasers and everything. And one of the things that we actually include for all the doctors that we train is we include a quantum block. So every laser system and centrifuge system, they all go out with a quantum block. And the rationale there is that when you're trying to elicit a beneficial response in somebody's physical form, a lot of that is kind of invested in the person who's the practitioner. It's, for the most part, it's MDs who are doing it, but they really, their intent, their desire to express wanting to heal, and it's amplified just by virtue of having a perfectly pristine, clean slate where the field of quantum flux is much higher. I mean, if you had somebody in the room that was just absolutely loving and wanted nothing more than to heal them, and maybe if you had their mom there or something, I mean, that would be the kind of the same effect. But in the absence of being able to hire their mom to go in and make sure that the procedure goes off well, we actually literally put a quantum block in every laser system for that reason, because it has such a pronounced effect.
That's epic.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of this show, you likely have some knowledge of the concept of quantum energy. We've covered it a lot over the past few years. Put simply, quantum energy is the source energy that exists in literally everything. Every one of us constantly interacts with the quantum energy fields around us. What sucks, though, is that your energy field can be greatly disrupted by environmental toxicity and chaotic energy created by EMF. Well, thankfully, the innovative folks over at Leela Quantum develop products to strengthen and protect our biofield and even mitigate harmful EMF. But let's be real here. Anyone can make claims about quantum energy products because this energy is, by its very nature, invisible and therefore difficult to prove. What can be proven, though, is whether or not a quantum energy product has a positive impact on the body. To solve this, Leela Q provides a grip of randomized, placebo-controlled single and double-blind studies proving the many benefits of their products. Of the various studies listed on their site, the dark field microscopy studies are some of the most intriguing. These studies demonstrate significant protective and improvement effects of the quantum block technology on human blood following only a 10-minute exposure. To feel the effects of quantum energy yourself, here's what you do. Go to leelaq.com and use the code Luke10 to get 10% off your first order. That's LEELAQ, leelaq.com. What's next? I'm like, you guys have done it, right?
One more thing.
Only 70 studies? Jeez.
I don't know how
We're
we're on
slacking.
time, but we'll still get into the what's next. But I think 2 other studies are very interesting too, because they were also quite powerful. One on women's health. The so-called Reputable Health Institute out of the US contacted us at some point and said, we bumped into your technology and we're trying to figure something out here to help women with fertility issues. And does your technology help with that? And then I said, well, I don't know. We've never tested that. I would assume so because of this, and that, but I have no data points. Well, we have so many women here that have these issues. We would love to run and study if you can provide the technology. Okay, long story short, we used the quantum upgrade for that. And it was with 30 or 35 women. And the results were excellent across the board, across all markers, including also the personal surveys of the ladies that were treated. And it was so good that everyone from the reputable health institute signed up for the quantum upgrade right the day after the study was over without even asking for a discount code or anything. They told us like 2 months later, yeah, we're all on the quantum upgrade. I mean, this stuff is crazy. I mean, this really works. So it's really interesting to see these wide areas of application where you can help with this, or where energy or supporting the biofield has a positive effect, and how it shows up, right? Not just in HRV and in the blood, but in a lot of different ways. And of course, these studies were already top-notch studies. But if someone asks, well, these are all human studies, did you also do something for pets? Yes, we have done various things for pets. And there was a study with 30 dogs, just recently completed, I think 3-4 months ago. That was a 12-month study run in Austria. And it had 4 different testing methods. They looked at the regular veterinarian diagnostics. So 2 veterinarians diagnosed the dogs before, during, and after. Pet owner surveys was the second method. The BESA testing method was the third one, which is basically a bioenergetic system analysis based on the Deka-Voll method. People can look that up, DEKA and then VOLL, Deka-Voll from Germany. Phenomenal biohacking diagnostics that most people have completely forgotten that it exists. And then live blood analysis, all those 4 methods. And it showed significant improvements across the board. Again, it was randomized and double-blind and per se placebo-controlled, because the dogs have no clue what's going on.
There was 30 dogs, you said?
30 dogs, yeah, with a control group. And in the control group, either nothing happened or the picture got worse. And in the experimental group, the dogs got better on all levels that they measured across all of these different testing methods, including also the perspective of the pet owners. And they did not know if the dog was in the quantum upgrade or not, right? So it's really double blind.
It's blind for the pet owners.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's funny. You just reminded me, when you guys came out with your service a couple years ago, whenever it was, I saw the pet one. So Cookie's been on that the whole time. I actually forgot about it.
How is she doing?
She's doing great. I mean, she has like a breathing issue that came up recently, and I haven't been able to solve that. But I mean, she's 9 years old, and like, you can't control. I mean, she's like very energetic.
Have you tried the Heal for Dogs frequency?
I don't think so.
Okay. And especially because we've updated it about 3 months ago.
I mean, I haven't even, whatever I had her on, I haven't looked at it. I was just like, oh, pet, boom, click, activate. But like,
try this one for her for the next week and see how that goes. Happiness during the day and Heal for Dogs during the night. Just play around with it.
Yeah, I'll have to go in and
not
look
too high. Dogs don't need much, especially at that size. Maybe 700 during the day, 500 at night is just perfect.
I have to look. I wonder what I did set, because I think I did a different evening and daytime set. Because when you go in your online portal, right, just for those listening that haven't seen it, like, you can go in and be very specific. Like, you don't want the high energy one when you're trying to sleep, right? So it's like, I remember I set mine and the house and hers, I think whatever made the most sense based on the time of day.
The transcendent dog at 700.
Yeah, exactly.
500 nice tail wagging. 700 kind of got a transcendental dog.
I think the dogs are enlightened.
Cookie's in a lotus position when you walk in.
Totally.
Yeah, and by the way, people can try it with, I think, code Luke15 on quantumupgrade.io.
Oh, cool.
For 15 days for free. And what we changed a few weeks ago is we always were, I think, pretty cool about that, because you could sign up, you put in your credit card, and after the trial, if you didn't want it, you could just tell us through various channels you don't want it anymore, and you could cancel any time. But we even switched that you don't even have to provide a credit card. And you literally need to sign up, though, then, if you want to keep it after those 15 days.
I love that you did that. I love that you did that. I find that annoying. Like, I'll go through, I'm not very good at checking my credit card statements, but every once in a while, I open one up, just see what's going on. I go, what the hell are these 10 apps I'm paying for? Some shit I signed up for on my phone and I never used it. And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I probably spent thousands of dollars on things I forgot to cancel. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I think we realized last night we're paying for two $15 a month Amazon things, Discovery TV or whatever, because I accidentally signed up on mine and Allison's account. I mean, who knows how many of those things I don't even notice. So thank you for making people go the extra step to actually get charged.
It's a whole lot easier when you have something that really profoundly helps. I mean, that is nice actually, because people can feel it. I think if people didn't actually get the benefit, they would not do that. They would not take that step.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's a good litmus test, right? If someone's like, cool, I got this thing for free, I didn't notice anything, then great, they don't need it. But if someone does and they're going to go through the extra effort to actually input their information, it means it's doing something.
Well, it's a great way for people to play with consciousness too. I mean, I think just if somebody is looking at the idea of consciousness for the first time, it's great because you can go in and you literally have a way to dial it up, dial it down, see what you perceive, see if you perceive anything at all. And that's something, as opposed to, going to sit in a cave in the Himalayas, right? You're like, well, you can do that. Sure. You could spend 50 years meditating, but if you can just kind of dial in and play with it and see, then I think it's compelling, because when people have an experience of that firsthand, it's profound.
Yeah. And also there's the, the phenomenon of not only tracking your own experience, but watching the experience of, your pet or people that you live with and things like that, right? I mean, assuming you're not crossing their sort of autonomy bounds and things like that. I don't think something like this would be, I don't know. I don't feel like you would be karmically out of line to just turn a cool thing on in your house and not tell anyone.
To randomly be kind.
Yeah,
no,
but
I don't think you're crossing a bound if you're randomly
that's
kind.
an interesting test too, just to see I don't know, if your hyper, annoying teenager settles down and is, mellows out or whatever. I don't know, there's different ways to kind of test that too.
Yeah, and frankly, almost the opposite is also the case if we think about it. Cancer rates for cats and dogs are through the roof. And who takes care of them, right? I mean, a lot of people have still not understood even that EMFs are really an issue, but the ones that have understood take care for themselves. But do we take care of the pets, right? But they have the same issues, and they're way smaller than we are.
Man. Totally.
So, and then the blue light exposure and all of that. And
these?
Well, so I'm fine. I'm in the quantum upgrade because we've tested also that the melanin is supported.
Really?
Yes, it is. It is supported by our technology. And that's quite cool because the melanin levels are messed with through all the blue lights. And then through the EMFs on top of it. Yeah. So it's a big deal. And so for us, what's next? You asked, more research. I mean, we're not stopping because there's so much more still to explore. I think especially the blue light topic is hot for me. I want to see more research. We're doing more research even on the brain. So there's actually a few studies that are underway right now in regards to the brain in the US and in Europe. We have 2 studies that we haven't talked about yet and won't right now, but they will be published relatively soon. They were done in Europe. And then we'll focus on athletes. So there is a pilot study underway right now with top athletes. One of them is trying to break the world record in the 400 meters this year. And so it's a quite nice.
That's going to be a hell of a testimonial if they do it.
Yes, exactly. But we have other ones. As I mentioned, there's some world champions and Olympians that are using this tech. And in the end of the day, they're pretty cool. Like some of these top athletes, they try to get the fastest recovery that they can get and the best performance that they can get. And they're already doing pretty much everything they can to maximize it. And then they see, oh, wow, that gives me an additional edge and it's working. They ask once how this works, and then they don't care anymore because they only care about that it works.
I mean, that's a great test subject cohort, right? Because you have people that are already super healthy, high performance. They're already doing all the biohacks. To get something to move the needle for people that are already at the highest level of performance is more meaningful.
And we do have those like Blaine McConnell, right? So Blaine, phenomenal athlete. I think probably just turned 40. And he's, at the NFL Combine, when you track it, the fastest time ever posted for a 40-yard dash is 4 minutes or rather 4.21 seconds is the fastest time. And so
Oh my
Blaine's,
God,
it's pretty damn quick, right?
I can't even do that in my car. Like, that is insane.
Well, so Blaine is he's been working on it, and he's done a bunch of stuff, right? So he's done like the wizard stuff. He does the quantum upgrade. I did the V-cell stem cell procedure on him with the lasers, and so he's looking for every edge. But it's like you said, so he just ran that, and we've got video of it. It's clocked and tracked and everything at 4.15 seconds. So faster than anyone's ever run it at the NFL Combine, and he's turning 40, which is yeah. And he sent me 2 videos. That one and the next one, he's doing like some ridiculous thing, like a deadlift with 470 pounds or something. It's ridiculous. But those guys, that's the cohort, because they are at the absolute extreme edge of, like human performance. And when you see that, you're like, damn, that's a testament.
We had a professional motocross rider that came to a biohacking world conference in LA to the booth, and with his dad, they both came and gave me a bunch of presents. And said, this is just so amazing. Thank you so much for the quantum upgrade. Like, okay, so what's going on? So he had this huge injury, and it was supposed to be a 6-month recovery time. And he actually posted it on his Instagram. He talked about it with his dad, so everyone can look at it. And he was done after 2.5 months. And that was the only other thing that he did. And it was just absolutely remarkable. And there was another guy who had the same injury in the same week, and he wasn't there. He took the regular time.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So it's pretty cool. What's going on there.
Let me ask you something. What if getting the body you want didn't have to be a struggle? Because the truth is, losing weight isn't just about diet and exercise. It's actually about hormones, metabolism, and how your body regulates hunger. So if you've ever tried a restrictive diet and ended up regaining the weight afterward, you know exactly what I mean. Enter semaglutide from Limitless Living MD. It's a science-backed, FDA-approved peptide that helps control appetite, reduce cravings, and support long-term weight loss. Clinical studies show patients losing 15 to 20% of their body weight way more effective than traditional diets. With just one little old injection per week you give yourself in the comfort of your own home, you can take back control without the struggle of counting calories or starving yourself every day. And by the way, the benefits go way beyond the scale. Semaglutide stabilizes blood sugar, boosts metabolism, improves energy, and even supports better sleep. Founded by Dr. Samuel Lee, one of my favorite people in the world, and former guest on episode 496, by the way, if you want to learn more about him, Limitless Living MD gives you expert guidance, a customized plan, and ongoing support so you're never doing this thing on your own. To get on board and get fit and thin, head over to limitlesslivingmd.com/Luke, and if you punch in the code Luke, you'll get 12% off your first order. So book a free 15-minute consultation to start your path to wellness today. That's limitlesslivingmd.com/Luke. Riddle me this. Okay, I'm putting myself in your position as the owner of this company, right? I feel like I would do a few studies, spend the money, okay, right? Maybe, be less profitable for a couple years or whatever, like get some data, throw it on the website. Then I'm out. I'm not doing any more studies. I'm just like, we've proved it. I'm good. And I'm just going to buy a yacht or whatever. Like, why do you what motivates you to keep pumping cash into the research when frankly, it's not probably that necessary at a certain point? I mean, is it your curiosity or what?
Well, thanks for asking, actually, because it's because of our mission. Our mission is not to make money. Our mission is to help people and pets and plants.
Oh, yeah, help people. Right. Forgot.
So that is really what it is. And because of that, the research doesn't stop because there's so much more to explore. Just from a business standpoint, you could absolutely say, of course. I mean, this has been proven a long time ago. I mean, I could have stopped 2 years ago to prove to anyone any more study, right? The proof is there. Look it up. But it's not about proving it anymore. It's about showing what else is possible. And then, research areas like the food sensitivities, for example, difficult to provide guidance in this specific field because there's so many different substances you can eat and so many different body profiles and all of that. There's so much more research to be done. And it's a key technology. That's what most people haven't understood. It's not like one product. It's a key technology. So it can be applied in many different ways. And that's why the research area is also so broad and so big. And it's just fascinating. I think we're craving for more research. It's fun. And it's also because what you said initially, right? It's you can prove we're all one and that we are all energy and frequency and we react to that, right? We transmit energy and frequency and we also receive it. And then figuring out what else we can do in this world, right? Because we're blasted by all these negative things. And we've never been in the camp of saying, okay, now we need to fight the negative or something. But hey, we're driven to provide something positive for people that they can use. Yeah. And then they use it for their benefit. And that's basically where it comes from.
Yeah,
and it's fun. Also, it's fun. I mean,
I was halfway kidding because
yeah.
I find it fun too. Just every time I meet up with you guys, and you're like, "Oh, here's the latest studies." I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's wild, especially because we're bridging the Newtonian world of materialism and the non-linear, non-physical world of energy. The fact that you're bridging those, but you can show empirical evidence on the physical side. I mean, I find that really interesting too, because you're like decoding magic. This is like,
that's a very good way to put it.
Spooky effect at a distance, or whatever that.
Spooky action at a
spooky
distance.
action. It's like you're showing that.
Well, this is like I liken this to a lot of what Michael Faraday did. When he was originally starting to look at electromagnetism, a lot of those experiments are like, but what else does it do? I mean, that really is, you get a bunch of scientists who are like crazy curious about stuff. And they're like, oh my God, it shot sparks. I can feel it. What else can we do? And it kind of keeps propagating. And that's a lot of this is like, wow, okay, so we can do this at a distance. How much more can we do?
So when you're talking about like addressing different issues like food sensitivity, athletic performance, your pet, whatever, Are you guys, changing the frequency sets and dialing different things in? If I go in the, on the back end of my account and I'm putting these boosters at different times and they each have a different signature, is a lot of, the research you're doing to show kind of the results of the ways you're tinkering on the back end with addressing, different areas of physiology and so on?
Yeah.
So we have done at first the bulk of the studies with just the basic quantum energy. And now lately we've gone in and used specific frequencies like the brain support frequency that we developed that was used now in the brain research and is also going to be used in these other brain research studies because that further much amplifies the just basic settings. We actually found that the basic settings are not at all able to combat everything that's going on in the brain. You would have to even do more if you literally have your iPhone 15 5G call here for 30 minutes. You need additional stuff and additional support. And by the way, it has some very positive side effects because you don't even need to use the brain support frequency just because you're on the phone or so. It just helps you in general with more clarity and presence. You can just go to some party and have a blast because you have the brain support frequency. You literally amp up your brain in a very natural way. And so coming back to the question though, so the Heal 360 frequency has been one that was used as a standard protocol, I think at least partially in the spike protein and parasite studies as well as, but only partially I must say. And then it was fully used in the women's fertility study.
Oh, cool. So, that's what I was going to ask you earlier. With the fertility study, they were using the Heal frequency?
Yeah.
So not a specific one for hormones or something like that. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
This is really bad to do when we have 4 minutes left. So I apologize. And there might be an easy way out, and feel free to, plead the fifth on this, Ian. But have you done Bufo since I saw you last? Because I don't think I remember there was murmurs of the possibility.
Well, when last we spoke, I had done it.
Okay.
But not after that.
But not after that. I have not done it again.
Okay. Okay.
Just the one time.
I don't recall unpacking that with you, but I would like to when we have like about 4.5 hours.
I'm super down for it, man.
Yeah, because I
I'd love
remember
to.
thinking like, Ian, brilliant guy, high intellect with a really big open heart, loving person. Like that combination is already so rare and amazing, just a gift to humanity. And I thought, man, what happens when you hit that with 5-MeO-DMT?
I think we probably need to do it one more time to
Okay.
to validate that out.
Well, I was telling Crew earlier today, we were, of course, talking about that particular topic. And I told her that, the first time I did it, it was too immense. I didn't even realize what had happened because it was so big. You know what I mean? It was only in the subsequent times after that, I reflected back on the first time and I was like, oh, that's what was happening. It's like I was in Venice, at a friend's house. I walked out and just drove home. I was like, that was interesting. Had no clue like how monumental it was until later. So yeah, sometimes it does take two.
Yeah.
Although the second one was really, really difficult.
Really?
Yeah.
Just in terms of what you had to process through?
I resisted. My ego freaked out. I had a full-blown ego death. I stood up and I was like, make it stop. I'm done. I'm out. Like, that's what I was saying that.
Oh my God, that's so good.
And everyone's kind of looking there like, oh, like it doesn't work like that. The group sitting around me. It was a beautiful lesson. And wow, look at the amazing, the kind of naivete, but caring nature of the ego. It was trying to protect me.
Yeah.
By torturing me and trying to make a thing stop that it was too late in stopping, It's fun, so.
Right after you hear the click, 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 you're right at the top of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
I think I should hop off.
Well,
now.
that's what happened. It came in and started resisting after it had just been annihilated. And I was like, bro, you're too late. You just missed the thing you were trying, anyway. I've told the story numerous times, so I won't tell it again, but I can't wait to unpack that with you.
I would love to.
Before we go, so you mentioned the 15 days free. We're going to put all of that at lukestorey.com/quantum3. I'd love for people to give this a shot. Let us know, hit me up. Let me know what you're experiencing. You guys have a Telegram group too, right?
Yeah, there's the quantum upgrade community specifically for the quantum upgrade. Cool. And we have over 4,000, maybe 5,000 people.
You got more than my
group.
Telegram group. Mine never grows. I started it during the pandemic because I was censored everywhere. And so I only put really negative stuff on there. It's like, okay, I get it. I get why it's still locked at 3,900 or whatever it is. But yeah, but I think that's cool. I like the community aspect because with something like this, it's like, I don't know, you turn it on, you're like, I don't know, am I feeling anything? To interact with some other people in the group and they're like, hey, I'm experiencing this and that. And to be able to have some, kind of support and be able to compare notes, I think that's a really great idea. Real quick, tell us what's the latest with Wizard Sciences.
Let's see. So we just dropped our new and improved methylene blue product, Mito Blue.
Oh, I love that stuff, dude. Yeah.
And that was after having to pull MitoCure from our 236 page cease and desist letter from a very large multinational conglomerate.
Interesting. Was it because of the name of it?
No, it was because they said we were infringing on some patent rights.
Oh,
and
okay.
If you're going to fight a $500 million corporation, or rather $500 billion corporation, God, that's the economies of scale. They're kind of ridiculous. Like when you think about I would like to fight the good fight, but if somebody has quite literally hundreds of billions of dollars, you can pretty much say in this particular milieu, you're going to lose that battle. So I was like, meh. So we pulled it, then went back and I reformulated everything. And it's really good. It's got, NMN and Apigenin and, a whole lot of Facet.
That's a dope product.
It packs a wallet.
The last bottle we got from you, Allison took it and she barely takes any supplements. She's like clutches that bottle.
That combo, right? So
I can't even find it. She loves it.
It's good stuff because it really hits because it triggers mitophagy and then it upregulates mitochondrial biodensity. And so it's all the things that you really want. And then the ginsenosides, ginseng, who knew? Pretty much everybody from antiquity knows. It really potentiates the effects of all that stuff. And there was, there's a lot of research and you can look it up. We have it on the site, but that stuff it's great, so we've got that. And then, trying to get the inhale water out the door. And that's,
cool.
That's the super oxygenated stuff. And so it's
epic.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, man.
As you know, I'm a big fan, and going out to your freaking lab, like that place is so awesome.
You're
the
gonna have to
the Quanta
supplements,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we just released the Quanta line of supplements, so it's
really
D3K, and they're great. So that was one of the amazing things. People look at this and they get kind of incredulous because we can take something and we can take, say, D3 or zinc, and we can run a spectral analysis on it, and it says D3 zinc. It's exactly the same. And then we put one in, quantum upgrade or the quantum blocks, and we charge it, and then we run redox potential assays on it, and it responds as if it's an entirely different compound.
Whoa.
So much more amped up. And the data, it's kind of funny when you look at it because you're like, holy shit, this is like a totally different compound.
It's crazy.
I always joke that it's like it goes to 11, because you completely crank the potential. And the crazy bit, and it's not just, I'm not the only person who's done this, but another chemist that did the same thing. What's bizarre is the potential, like how it impacts biochemically. What the bioavailability shift is dependent on what's better, which is crazy to think about, right? It's not just that it uniformly bumps everything up so it has a higher redox potential every time. If it's actually better for you, if it has a lower redox potential, it dips it.
Whoa.
And that's just one analysis, right? There's a whole host of different things that you can check.
So it's like self-modulating.
It is self-modulating.
Wow.
It's almost as if there's some underlying intelligence that connects everything.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah. And that stuff that's great. And then you did the PPT, the photobiomodulation plasma therapy, which is cool because my partner and I just finished up a year of research at UCLA, kind of very demonstrably showing like increasing stem cell proliferation and all these things. But at the end of the day, the thing we found was it actually wasn't about stem cells. It was about the effects of light and quantized light in plasma. This whole quantum thing, I mean, we're going to have to release our line of quantum cornflakes.
So cool. Here. I mean, yeah, exactly. Everyone else is doing it. Well, we got 2 minutes until you guys need to be taillights, as we say in Hollywood. It's been a pleasure. I wish we had more time, but this time it's not my fault. You got a flight, so it's out of my hands. Otherwise, we'd go for another 4 hours. But that just means we got to do it again soon. As I said,
speaking for both of us, we would love to. This is actually
with more time, then.
Right? Yeah, with more time. This is great because we always come out here and it's like it's happy. I mean, it's truly
Yeah, it's good times. And I've already asked you to on multiple occasions your three greatest teachers, so we can skip that and until we meet again.
Much love, man. Thank you.